Welcome to the Manifestation Circle. If you're listening to this right now, buckle up because we're about to go deep today. Today's episode is going to challenge some of those things you've been told about manifestation and maybe even some of the things you believe about faith, surrender, and the process of receiving. And to explore this, we're going to look at one of the most profound moments in human and spiritual history, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. So, whether you see Jesus as a religious figure or a symbol of faith and surrender, you will notice that the lesson still holds. And I know what you're thinking. What does Jesus dying on the cross have to do with manifestation? So, stick with me as we simplify this for you. The story of Jesus on the cross isn't just about suffering and sacrifice. It's that blueprint for emotional and spiritual process of manifestation. Because let's begin thinking about it. Jesus Christ is this divine figure, the Son of God, the one who performed miracles, healed the sick. Jesus is the complete embodiment of belief. He had unwavering faith. He had seen the evidence of God's power firsthand. He knew he was fulfilling his divine purpose. And yet, at the most critical moment, when he was literally nailed to the cross, suffering beyond comprehension, what did he say? He said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" That's a doubt, a cry. That's a moment of complete abandonment. That's the human experience of feeling like I did everything right. I had faith. I trusted. I followed the plan. And yet, nothing. And this is exactly what happens in manifestation. You visualize it, you affirm it, you align with it, you stay positive. You're doing all the things you've been told to do, and yet nothing happens. And you reach this breaking point, the point where you feel like you've been abandoned. And that's exactly the moment most people give up. That's the point where you stop believing because you assume that if you're feeling this level of emptiness and hopelessness, it must mean you're doing something wrong. But here's the part that's going to shift your whole understanding of manifestation. That moment of emptiness isn't a sign that this is not working. That moment of feeling abandoned is not a sign that you're failing. That's the crucifixion part of the manifestation process. Because what happened next? After Jesus cried out in despair, after he hit that lowest point of doubt and abandonment, he surrendered. He said, "It is finished." And that's when the miracle happened. That's when the resurrection came. And that's when the divine plan was complete. And that is the emotional template for manifestation. You have to go through that breaking point. You have to face the abandonment, the emptiness, the dark night of the soul. But the key moment isn't about feeling abandoned. It's about what happens after that. It's about the moment when you say it's finished, where you surrender, where you stop controlling. And regardless of the time it takes, regardless of the hours you put, regardless of everything, you believe beyond a shadow of doubt that the miracle will still happen. And that's when your manifestation locks in. So, in this episode, we're going to break down exactly why that happens, why that breaking point is actually a necessary step, why surrendering is the key, not quitting, but surrendering, and why you might be closer to your manifestation than you think. Because if you're at the breaking point, you're already at the edge of the miracle. And if Jesus himself had to face that moment of abandonment before the miracle happened, what makes you think you won't have to face it too? And I want to make something very clear. Jesus was there at that moment, facing that moment of abandonment and then surrendering. If you've in the equality of your manifestation, you've been putting that work day and night, you've been doing the work, you're literally at that cross and you're feeling abandoned, that is what we're talking about. We're not talking about I believe today and tomorrow I'm back in my old ways. No, you have to be in that process where you're seeing it through day and night. Day and night. So let's get into it. So this is the ultimate paradox of faith and manifestation. Because again, if Jesus, the literal embodiment of faith in the divine, the one who walked on water, healed the sick, performed miracles, if he could feel abandoned in the most critical moment in his life, what does that mean for all of us who don't have this level of faith in us where we're walking on water, or healing sick people, or performing miracles? And this is that mentality you need to embrace, because it changes everything. We in this moment see Jesus in a way we've never seen before. This moment humanizes in a way that makes his story both relatable and also brings us into that process of manifestation even more powerful. And I will tell you later on why I said relatable. So hold your horses there. Because again, if we go back to that process and the way we're thinking about this, Jesus knew his purpose. He knew the prophecy. He already seen direct evidence of God's power. He had every reason to believe that God will deliver him. And in spite of that, and in those final moments, he still felt abandoned. When he yelled out, my God, why you have forsaken me?" That was not fear, that was doubt. And yet that doubt did not stop the resurrection from happening. That doubt did not undo his purpose or his divinity. That doubt didn't mean that he was out of alignment. And this is how we relate that back to manifestation, because this is where people get this wrong. Because the way people talk about manifestation makes you think that if you're doubting, if you're questioning the process, then you're somehow, quote unquote, blocking your manifestation. You're told to stay positive. You're told to keep your vibrations high. You're like, oh, don't think about the outcome. Trust the divine. Stay aligned. But that's not how it works. Doubt isn't the opposite of faith. Doubt is a part of faith. Doubt is the fire you walk through on the way to the outcome. So again, if Jesus, that divine figure, could feel forsaken and still fulfill his process, then maybe doubt isn't a sign that you're failing. Maybe it's a sign that you're actually closer than you think. Because that's what faith is. Faith isn't never questioning. Faith isn't pretending you don't feel scared or lost. Faith is those things, allowing yourself to unravel and still showing up. And if we think about it, in the process of manifestation, you visualize the outcome, you affirm it, you take aligned action. But when nothing's happening, it feels like you're doing all the right things, but you're still stuck. That's that crucifixion moment. That's when most people quit. They think, if I'm doubting, if I'm scared, if I feel abandoned, it must not be working. But what if that's actually the final test? Because let's be honest, Jesus didn't die with serene acceptance. He didn't ascend with peace and calm. He died broken. He died questioning. But he still fulfilled his purpose, because in that moment of surrender is where miracles happen. Because in spite of his brokenness, in spite of his questions, he surrendered to God and the outcome, regardless of whatever that outcome was. He let go. He unraveled. And that's why the path went forward the way it did. And in terms of manifestation, this is why so many people are stuck, because they think letting go is giving up. Or you think letting go means that, oh, I let go today, tomorrow it arrives. No, giving up is actually giving up. Giving up not just to your manifestation, giving up to the timeline, but not in the way that says, I give up, I'm not doing anything. It means I'm giving up on the way I control it, on the way the process will unfold. But I will still show up, but I will still put in the work, but I will still do what needs to be done. But I give up. I let go of the way it's supposed to happen, of when it's supposed to happen, of how it's supposed to happen. And also, letting go and giving up is understanding that when you let go and you give up, you don't need immediate rewards for letting go or giving up. It's saying, I don't know how or when this will happen, but I know I will. But I know it will happen. I know I will show up. It's showing up in spite of the doubt. It's feeling that doubt, feeling that fear, feeling that emptiness, and not needing to fix it. It's surrender, pure surrender. It's showing up every day and admitting to yourself, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyway. I don't know if this is going to pan out, but it's important to me. And I trust that God will deliver, or whatever you believe in will deliver for me. Because you cannot have perfect certainty. It's about showing up when you don't know how it's going to turn out. Because if Jesus, that figure of divinity, didn't hold on with white knuckle certainty, he doubted, he broke, he surrendered, then that is what you need to be doing with your manifestation. Who cares if you're doubting? Keep going. Who cares if you break? Keep going. How? Surrender. When? Surrender. Live your life and move in a way that brings happiness, that brings joy, that brings alignment, without needing to look at the calendar. Because if you're looking at the calendar for when something will happen, that is not surrender. So what does this mean for manifestation? Hold both ideas in your mind. You can doubt and you can still be aligned. It means feeling like that abandonment doesn't mean your manifestation is failing. You don't have to fake positivity. You don't have to pretend you're scared or you're not scared. It means that breaking down is a part of that process. You're not out of alignment. There's no need to be completely certain about anything. Faith is trusting even when you're not certain. Faith is believing even when it looks like it's not working. Faith is standing in the fire and saying, even if I feel abandoned, I know the outcome is already written. Because the fact that you have doubt doesn't mean that it's not happening. That is a human condition. And in many ways, doubt is proof that you're at the edge of alignment, that you're walking through the fire, that at some point, at some level, the outcome will show. And that is the frustration, that at some point, which is why there's the need to surrender, because we have no control over the outcome, and admitting that to yourself is liberating. So when Jesus said it is finished, that wasn't him quitting. It was him releasing to the outcome, stepping into surrender. The energetic moment when you stop needing the outcome to prove itself, when you stop checking for the results, when you stop trying to control the process, when you just know. And that is when the miracle happens. So don't think you have to white knuckle yourself through it or stay positive and high vibes all the time. Allow yourself to break. Allow yourself to breathe. Allow yourself to say, I don't know if this is working. Maybe cry now, God, why you have forsaken me? Maybe it's about letting yourself hit that wall and still showing up. Because again, faith is not about certainty. Faith is about walking through the fire of doubt and surrendering anyway. Jesus didn't need to believe all the way through to fulfill his process or his purpose. He needed to surrender. The resurrection happened anyway. So don't quit because quitting is walking away. Surrender because surrender is letting it go. Stop trying to hold on so tightly. So I want to simplify this one last time so you understand the ultimate test of faith and the way we are conditioned as human beings. When you're reading about Jesus dying on the cross, you're really seeing a man at his lowest point. I know no one's going to like hearing that. But in many ways, we understand that he's not calm, he's not peaceful, he's broken, he's doubting. If he wasn't doubting, why would he cry out to God? He cried out, why you have forsaken me? Which is basically the equivalent of what we say, where are you, God? Why are you letting this happen? This is not the picture of faith and manifestation we're taught. We're taught that we're supposed to be strong. We're taught that we're supposed to hold on, that we're supposed to believe no matter what, that we're supposed to stay aligned and trust the universe. But in that moment, Jesus did the exact opposite. He doubted. He felt abandoned. He literally called out to God in despair. And yet, he still fulfilled his purpose. He still rose. So what does that tell us? What does that tell you? What you should know? Doubt is not the end of faith. If you're feeling abandoned right now, if you're feeling like God isn't there, that isn't a sign that you failed. That isn't failure. Jesus felt that too. Just because you feel doubt, just because you feel discouraged, just because you're questioning the process doesn't mean you are out of alignment. Because if that's true, why would Jesus have doubted? Faith is not about never having a single doubt. It's about walking through that doubt. It's about feeling abandoned and still standing in your purpose. It's about holding on in spite of not believing. Because think about it. Jesus knew it was coming. He predicted it at the Last Supper. He knew Judas would betray him. He knew Peter would deny him 3 times. He knew the prophecy. He knew the plan. So if he knew the outcome with complete certainty, why would he doubt it at the end? Because that's the part that's crazy. Because if Jesus, who literally knew the divine plan, could still have doubt in that moment of suffering, what does that say about us? What does that say about people who don't have that level of certainty? That tells me that doubt isn't weakness. Doubt is human. Doubt is part of the process. Even Jesus, the Son of God, had to experience it because faith isn't about knowledge. Jesus knew the plan. Jesus had the plan. Jesus knew the layout. Jesus knew the script. We can say that. If he knew this was going to happen, he knew the script. So if he knew the script and he saw the vision, why would he doubt? Because faith is not about knowledge. Faith is not about certainty. Faith is about trusting even when the plan doesn't make any sense. Faith is about surrendering even if it looks like it's not working, because intellectually, Jesus knew the plan. But when the pain hit, when the suffering became unbearable, That's when doubt showed up. Because suffering makes you question even the things you know for sure. That is human nature. But Jesus gave you the key. He didn't stay stuck in there. He didn't doubt and say, God, why you forsaken me, and just lay there in that forsaken thought. No. He said, it is finished. He wasn't defeated. He accepted it. He said, even if I don't understand why this is happening, I trust the plan anyway. And unfortunately, that's hard to get to that level of trust. So if you're not there yet, give yourself some grace. Give yourself some grace. Allow yourself to feel the frustration. Allow yourself to feel the doubt. That is another part of that certainty, another part of that faith that completes the wholeness. So even if it feels like you're completely abandoned, trust anyway. Feel the doubt and keep moving forward. Say, God, why you have forsaken me, but still show up tomorrow. That is the key. So when you're trying to manifest something and you feel like nothing's happening, you feel like the universe has gone quiet, you feel like you've been left behind, that is not failure. That is the crucifixion moment, the dark night of the soul. And that's when most people quit. Doubt is not the final test. And doubt will never be the final test. Because you have to move forward. You have to experience the doubt and choose to move forward. Surrender is the final test. Surrendering is. And surrendering in a way that doesn't say I surrender today because the moment I surrender, it's going to show up. No. Are you willing to surrender even if it doesn't show up? Are you willing to still walk the path even if the path leads nowhere? That is true surrender. That is your it is finished moment. That is I put myself in your hand, God moment. And that is when the work is done. That is when the contract is sealed. That is when the human struggle has been experienced. That's when the outcome is already secured. That is your final moment. But then the real test is, are you going to keep going? Are you going to surrender? Even if nothing happens, are you going to let go of the outcome and trust the plan anyway? Because that's when manifestations show up. Not because you forced it, not because you looked in the mirror and say, I surrendered. But in the back of your head, it's like, oh, I'm going to say I surrender because it's going to come when I say it. No. It's you saying I surrender and I'm happy. I'm happy in spite. If it doesn't show up today, tomorrow, in this lifetime or the next, I'm still going to be happy. I'm still going to move with life. I'm still going to make something out of my situation and out of my circumstances. That is surrender. That is your final test. So stop trying to control the process. Stop doubting yourself or feeling doubt. And stop thinking that because you're doubting, you're failing. Because Jesus doubted and he still fulfilled his purpose. So maybe doubt isn't the problem. Embrace that perspective. All right, I've talked too much. Let's bring this home. Doubt is not failure. Doubt doesn't mean you're out of alignment. Doubt doesn't mean it's not working. Doubt just means you're human. Doubt just means you're alive. Doubt just means you're experiencing the human side of faith. Doubt just means you're experiencing the human side of faith. So embrace the doubt. Call, call out to the heavens. Ask God why you have forsaken me. Scream it, cry it, say it out loud, journal it, rip the pages in anger. There's no fear in that. God's not going to punish you. There is no punishment. And that sentence shouldn't make you feel guilty or ashamed. Because if Jesus, the literal Son of God, knew the plan, had faith in him, was able to perform things beyond natural occurrences of the day to day, miracles, walking on water. He knew the plan. He knew who would betray him. He knew what would happen, and he still doubted, and he still rose and fulfilled his purpose. Then why the hell would you think that doubt disqualifies you? Why would you think that? You are not failing because you feel doubt. You're not blocked because you feel abandoned. That's the crucible. It's the fire you walk through before the miracle lands. And what did Jesus do after he doubted? He surrendered. He released it. He said it's finished. He committed it to God's hands. And that's the key. It's not pretending you're not scared. It's not about convincing yourself that when you don't believe, that you do believe. It's about showing up even when you're not sure it's working. It's about understanding that you don't have to know how it's going to work out to trust that it will work out. So whatever it is that you believe in, whatever it is that you've been trying to manifest, stop thinking the doubt means you're off track. Stop thinking the silence means you're doing it wrong. Stop thinking the struggle means it's not working. You need to stop white knuckling it. Stop forcing it. Stop needing to feel certain all the time. And just say it is finished. Trust it's already written. Let go of the need to control how and when, and know that it's gonna come. So if this resonated, I want you to sit with it. I want you to think about where in your life you've been holding on too tight. Where have you mistaken doubt for failure? Where have you convinced yourself that it's not happening just because you don't see it yet? And reflect on that. Let it go. Surrender and say it is finished. And listen, if it's resonated, if you want to fight in the comments, if you want to argue with me, I want to hear it. Leave a comment, DM me, send me an email. My email's always on all the podcast episodes. And if this resonated and you know there's someone out there who needs to hear it, who feels like nothing's happening, who's on the verge of giving up, send them this episode. Remind them that just because they're doubting doesn't mean they're failing. Just because they're doubting doesn't mean it's not working. Doubt is not the opposite of faith. Doubt is part of the path. Doubt is the crucible. The moment you stop fighting it, the moment you surrender is the moment the miracles land. Because you don't have to be perfect to receive it. You just have to be willing to walk through the doubt and trust anyways. It is finished. Now let the miracle show up. And if this resonated, again, send it to someone who might need it. Leave a comment, a DM, like this episode, and follow for more. I will see you all next week. Thank you for tuning in.